We helped Earth when nobody else wanted to. Only later did we understand how humans show their grimness part. 5. The New Order, the Krath Empire, fell in 8 months. Nobody in the galaxy had thought it possible. The Krath had ruled their region of space for 10,000 years. They had the largest fleet, the strongest weapons, the most feared warriors. They had conquered species that were older and more advanced than humanity. They should have been unstoppable, but the humans did not stop. Admiral Sujin led her fleet from victory to victory. Every battle was the same. The humans attacked with cold efficiency, destroyed what needed to be destroyed, and moved forward. They did not torture prisoners. They did not burn cities. They did not kill civilians. They simply ended the Krath military with surgical precision. When human soldiers reached the Krath homeworld, they found an empire in collapse. The Krath leaders had fled or surrendered. Their people were confused and afraid. For the first time in 10,000 years, they were not the strongest. General Taiho, now in his 70s, walked through the Krath capital city with Yuna by his side. The streets were empty. The grand palaces stood silent. The statues of Krath conquerors looked down at them with cold stone eyes. "What will you do with them?" Yuna asked. The Krath killed billions across the galaxy. They destroyed entire civilizations. Many would say they deserved destruction. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. He looked up at the statues of Krath emperors who had ordered countless genocides. His face showed no emotion. "We will do nothing," he said. "Nothing? Their empire is broken. Their fleet is gone. Their people will have to learn to live without conquest." He turned to face Yuna. "We did not come here for revenge, Ambassador. We came to stop them from hurting anyone else. That is done." Yuna was amazed. The humans had every right to be cruel. They had every reason to want blood. The galaxy would have understood if they had burned the Krath homeworld to ash. But they simply walked away. "How can you let go so easily?" she asked. "After everything they did? After the council member who laughed while your people died?" Taiho's old eyes grew distant. "That council member died in the first battle. His flagship was the first ship we destroyed." A small pause. "I gave that order myself." Yuna felt a chill. The humans had not forgotten anything. They had simply been very selective in their justice. "We do not punish children for the sins of their parents," Taiho continued. "The Krath who ordered the galaxy's suffering are dead. The ones who remain are just people. Scared, confused people who need to learn a better way to live." They walked in silence back to their shuttle. Behind them, the Krath capital city began to stir. Citizens came out of their homes, looking at the sky where human ships waited in orbit. They had expected death. They had expected revenge. They did not understand mercy. 1 month later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. The Great Hall was full for the first time in decades. Every species had sent their highest representatives. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Admiral Sujin stood at the center of the hall. She wore her simple uniform with no medals or decorations. Her gray hair was cut short. Her steel eyes scanned the room with calm attention. Behind her stood the representatives of humanity. Minji, now a leader in human technology. Yamsu, the pilot who had survived 100 battles. Yunji, the medic who had saved thousands of lives. And General Taiho, old and tired but still standing straight. The council speaker cleared his throat nervously. "Admiral Sujin, the council wishes to discuss the recent events. The fall of the Krath Empire. The unexpected intervention of human forces." Sujin nodded. "Speak." "We, that is, the council would like to understand your intentions. You have demonstrated military power that exceeds our expectations. Many species are concerned about what humanity might do next. A murmur went through the hall. Many representatives looked afraid. Some looked angry. A few looked hopeful. Sujin was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice calm and clear. 35 years ago, my people were dying. Plague ships had killed billions. Our civilization was on the edge of extinction. We came to this council and begged for help. She paused, letting the words sink in. You voted to let us die. 15 votes against. 2 in favor. Only the Valari stood with us. Only the Valari cared whether humanity survived. Several representatives looked down at their platforms. Some shifted uncomfortably. Nobody spoke. Remember that, Sujin continued. We will always remember that. Every human child learns about that vote before they learn to read. Every human adult carries that memory in their heart. She took a step forward. Her eyes swept across the hall. But we did not build our fleet for revenge. We did not prepare for 30 years to punish you for your failure. We built our fleet to protect our friends. The Valari saved us when nobody else wanted to. Now we have saved them in return. She turned to face Ambassador Yuna, who stood among the Valari delegation. For the first time since Yuna had known her, Admiral Sujin's face softened. That is how humans show gratitude, Ambassador. Not with words. Not with celebrations. With action. With sacrifice. With everything we have. Yuna felt tears streaming down her face. She finally understood. All those years of silence. All those decades of grimness. The humans had been carrying a debt they could never express in words. They had been waiting for the chance to prove their gratitude with deeds. Sujin turned back to the council. Her face became hard again. So here is our intention. Humanity will protect its friends. Anyone who stands by us in our time of need will find us standing by them in theirs. This is our promise. This is our law. She paused. But we also remember those who turned away. Those who voted to let us die. Those who watched our suffering and did nothing. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. We do not seek revenge, but we will not forget. And if any of you ever threaten our friends again, you will face the same fate as the Krath. The hall was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed out then. Slowly, the council speaker stood up. His hands were shaking. The council acknowledges humanity's statement. We propose a new alliance. A partnership between all species who wish to stand together in times of crisis. Sujin smiled. It was still that cold, empty smile, but there was something different in it now. Something that might have been hope. That is acceptable. She said that the vote was unanimous. 35 years after the council voted to let Earth die. They voted to welcome humanity as a full partner in galactic civilization. After the meeting, Yuna found Admiral Sujin standing alone on a balcony overlooking the council station. The stars stretched out before them, countless points of light in the endless dark. You finally smiled, Yuna said. A real smile. I saw it. Sujin was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. The work is done. The debt is paid. The Valari are safe. She looked at Yuna with eyes that were no longer steel. They were tired, human, real. Now I can finally open that box I told you about. All the feelings I locked away. All the grief and fear and hope. Tears began to fall down her face. The first tears Yuna had ever seen from her. It hurts, Sujin whispered. It hurts so much. Yuna took her hand. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Thank you, Yuna said finally. For everything. Sujin squeezed her hand. Thank you for giving us a reason to fight. A reason to live. A reason to be more than our pain. Below them, human and Valari officers walked together through the station corridors. Children from both species played in the recreation areas. Scientists shared discoveries. Soldiers shared stories. Two peoples, bound together by kindness given and returned. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. In a cold and uncaring universe, kindness was not weakness. It was the most powerful force of all. It could turn enemies into friends. It could turn despair into hope. It could turn a dying species into the defenders of those who saved them. The humans had been grim because they were patient. They had been silent because they were preparing. They had been cold because they were saving all their warmth for the ones who deserved it. And now, finally, they could begin to heal. The galaxy would never abandon another world again. Because now they knew what humanity had always known. Debts are always paid, one way or another. We helped Earth when nobody else wanted to. Only later did we understand. How humans show their grimness. Part 4. The Grim Truth. Yuna stood on the bridge of a human warship and watched the stars burn. The war with the Krath Empire had entered its third month. The humans had pushed deep into Krath territory, destroying military bases and liberating conquered worlds. Every battle was the same. The humans attacked with cold precision, won with brutal efficiency, and moved on to the next target without celebration. It was terrifying. Yuna had asked to join the fleet as an observer. She wanted to understand how the humans fought. She wanted to see their military in action. Now she wished she had stayed on Earth. "Admiral," a young officer reported, "we have reached the Krath fortress at Grid 7. Scanners show approximately 200 enemy ships defending the station." Admiral Sujin nodded. Her face showed no emotion. "Launch fighters. All capital ships. Prepare for assault." "Yes, Admiral." Yuna watched as hundreds of small human fighters launched from the warships. Each fighter carried one pilot. Each pilot knew they might not return. But none of them hesitated. They flew toward the enemy fortress with perfect formation and steady hands. Among them was a pilot named Hyunsu. Yuna had met him briefly before the battle. He was young, perhaps 25 years old. He had smiled when they were introduced, a rare thing among humans. But it was a strange smile, empty, like he had already accepted that he might die. "Are you afraid?" Yuna had asked him. Hyunsu had thought about the question. "Fear is a luxury," he said. "I will be afraid after the war is won. Right now, I have work to do." Now Yuna watched his fighter on the tactical display. He flew directly at the largest Krath ship, dodging weapons fire with impossible skill. His voice came through the speakers, calm and steady. Target locked, firing. His missiles hit the Krath ship's reactor core. The explosion was massive, taking out 3 other enemy vessels. Hyunsu's fighter emerged from the fire, damaged but flying. He immediately turned toward the next target. "Good shot, Hyunsu," another pilot said over the radio. "Confirmed kills. Moving to secondary targets." No excitement. No relief. Just the report and the next mission. Yuna felt a chill run through her body. The battle lasted 4 hours. The human fleet destroyed the Krath fortress and all its defenders. They lost 47 fighters and 2 small warships. For the humans, this was an acceptable cost. After the battle, Yuna walked through the ship's medical bay. Wounded soldiers lay in beds, receiving treatment from doctors and medics. One medic caught her attention. A young woman named Yoonji, who moved between patients with calm efficiency. A Krath prisoner was brought in, wounded and dying. Yoonji examined him without hesitation. "He needs surgery," she said. "Prepare the operating room." "But he is the enemy," another medic protested. "He was trying to kill us." Yoonji looked at him with cold eyes. "He is a patient. We treat all patients. That is our duty." She saved the Krath soldier's life. Then she moved to the next patient, a wounded human pilot, and saved his life too. There was no difference in her care. No anger toward the enemy. No special kindness toward her own people. Just the same steady, professional treatment for everyone. When she was finished, Yoonji stepped over a pile of bloody bandages and walked out of the medical bay. Her face was the same as when she entered. Calm, focused, empty. Yuna followed her into the hallway. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you treat the enemy with such neutrality?" Yoonji stopped walking. She turned to face Yuna, and for a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Something old and tired. "Because they are not my enemy," Yoonji said. "They are just people who were ordered to fight. The real enemy is the one who gave those orders. The one who decided to attack innocent worlds. The one who must be stopped. And when you stop them, when the war is over, then I will rest." Yoonji paused. "Or I will die. Either way, my work will be done." She walked away, leaving Yuna alone in the hallway. Over the next few weeks, Yuna saw more battles. She saw human soldiers fight with terrifying skill and absolute discipline. She saw pilots fly suicide missions without hesitation. She saw officers make impossible decisions with cold calculation. And slowly, she began to understand. Human grimness was not sadness. It was not despair. It was focus. Every human she met had removed all unnecessary emotions from their mind. They had pushed aside fear, doubt, joy, and hope. All that remained was the mission. The duty, the work that needed to be done. They were not broken. They had simply chosen to break themselves, to become weapons instead of people. Until the war was won. One evening, Yuna sat with Admiral Sujin in her private quarters. The Admiral was reviewing battle reports, making notes with quick, precise movements. "Admiral," Yuna said carefully, "may I ask you something personal?" Sujin looked up. Her steel eyes met Yuna's 4 eyes. "You may ask. I may not answer. What do you feel when you fight? When you send your people to die? When you destroy enemy ships full of living beings?" Sujin was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "I feel everything, Ambassador. I feel the weight of every life lost. I feel the horror of every battle. I feel the sadness of every family who will never see their loved ones again." She paused. "But I do not let those feelings control me. I put them in a box inside my mind and lock them away. When the war is over, I will open that box and face what I have done. But not now. Not while there is still work to do. How can you do that? How can you separate yourself from your emotions so completely?" Sujin's lips curved into that cold, empty smile. "Because we are human, Ambassador. This is what we do. This is how we survive. We feel everything, but we choose when to show it. We carry our pain in silence until the time is right to let it out." She turned back to her reports. The galaxy thought our silence was weakness. They thought our calm was acceptance. They thought we had given up hope. She shook her head slowly. They did not understand. Our silence was patience. Our calm was preparation. Our grimness was not the absence of emotion. It was the presence of control. Yuna finally understood. The humans had not been broken by their tragedy. They had been forged by it. They had taken their pain and turned it into strength. They had taken their anger and turned it into discipline. They had taken their grief and turned it into determination. They were not fighting because they hated the Krath. They were fighting because they loved the Valari. They were paying a debt that nobody had asked them to pay. They were proving that kindness in a cold universe was not weakness. It was the most powerful force of all, and the galaxy was learning to fear it. The Krath Empire had conquered dozens of species over thousands of years. They had never been defeated. They had never retreated. They had never known fear. Now they knew all three, and the humans were just getting started. We helped Earth when nobody else wanted to. Only later did we understand how humans show their grimness part. 3. The debt remembered. The Krath Empire attacked without warning. Una was in her office when the news arrived. A Valari communications officer burst through the door, his blue face pale with fear. Ambassador! The Krath fleet has entered Valari space. They have destroyed the outer colonies. Una felt her blood turn cold. The Krath Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of species over thousands of years. Their ships were massive and deadly. Their soldiers were brutal and without mercy. How many ships? She asked. Over 3,000. They are heading for our homeworld. Una closed her eyes. 3,000 warships. The Valari had only 400. They were a peaceful people. They had never built a large military. They had always believed that wisdom and kindness would protect them. They were wrong. She immediately contacted the Galactic Council. The Great Hall appeared on her screen, filled with representatives from dozens of species. The council speaker looked at her with tired eyes. Ambassador Una, we have received your distress call. The council is discussing the situation. Discussing? Una's voice cracked. The Krath are killing my people. We need help now. The Krath representative appeared on screen. His dark red scales gleamed under the council lights. He smiled with rows of sharp teeth. The Krath Empire has decided to expand, he said calmly. The Valari have resources we need. This is simply business. This is murder. Una shouted. It is nature. The strong take from the weak. Your people should have built better defenses. Una looked at the other representatives. Some looked away. Others pretended to study their screens. Nobody spoke in her defense. Will the council help us? She asked, her voice breaking. The council speaker sighed. The vote is 15 against. 2 in favor. The motion to provide military aid to the Valari has been rejected. The same vote. The same result. The same cold abandonment. Just like Earth 30 years ago, Una felt tears run down her face. Her people were going to die. Her homeworld would burn, and the galaxy would watch and do nothing. I understand, she whispered. She ended the transmission. For a long time, she sat alone in the dark. She thought about her family on the Valari homeworld. Her parents. Her sisters. Her young nieces who loved to hear stories about Earth. They would all die because the galaxy did not care. Then her door opened. General Taiho walked in. He was in his 70s now, but he still moved with military precision. Behind him came Minji, now a senior officer in the Human Engineering Corps, and behind her came a face Una did not recognize. A woman in a naval uniform with the rank of admiral. Ambassador, Taiho said. We heard the news. Una wiped her tears. Then, you know it is over. My people will be destroyed. No, said the admiral. Her voice was calm and cold. They will not. Una looked at her. The admiral was in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes like steel. Her uniform was plain but perfect. Her posture was straight and strong. There was no fear in her face. No doubt. I am Admiral Sujin, she said. Commander of the Human Defense Fleet. Defense Fleet? Una was confused. Earth has no fleet. You have only the small ships we gave you for trade. Admiral Sujin smiled. It was the first time Una had ever seen a human smile, and it sent a chill down her spine. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. We have been busy, Sujin said. She handed Una a small device. A holographic display appeared, showing images that made Yuna's heart stop. Ships, thousands of them. Human warships of every size, from small fighters to massive battle cruisers. They filled hidden bases inside asteroids and beneath mountains. They waited in secret facilities on Earth's moon and on distant planets the Valari had helped humans colonize. How? Yuna could barely speak. How is this possible? We never saw any of this. You saw what we wanted you to see, Minji said. Her calm voice had not changed in 30 years. Every piece of technology you gave us, we improved. Every ship design, we made stronger. Every weapon system, we made deadlier. We have been building in secret for 3 decades. But why? Why hide this from us? General Taiho stepped forward. His old eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw emotion in them. Not anger, not pride, gratitude. Because we were not hiding it from you, he said. We were hiding it from them. From the Council. From the galaxy that left us to die. And now? Yuna whispered. Admiral Sujin's smile faded. Her face became hard as stone. Now we pay our debts. She pressed a button on her communicator. All ships, this is Admiral Sujin. Execute Operation Sunrise. I repeat, execute Operation Sunrise. Within hours, the human fleet launched. They emerged from hiding places across human space, jumping to faster-than-light travel toward Valari territory. 3,000 warships, each one built with technology the Valari had shared freely and human determination. The galaxy had never seen. The Krath Empire received word of the human fleet approaching their invasion force. The Krath commander laughed when he heard the numbers. 3,000 human ships against 3,000 Krath ships? The humans were primitive, weak. Their technology was based on Valari designs, which the Krath had already defeated. He sent a message to Earth. Turn back now, or we will destroy you along with the Valari. You cannot defeat us. Admiral Sujin's response was a single sentence. Debts are paid. The 2 fleets met in the space between stars. The Krath commander expected an easy victory. He ordered his ships to attack with full force. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history for thousands of years. The human ships moved with impossible speed. They did not fight like the Valari, with careful formations and defensive positions. They attacked. They were aggressive, relentless, and absolutely without fear. Every pilot, every captain, every soldier fought as if they had nothing to lose, because they had already lost everything once. The Krath expected fear. They expected hesitation. They expected the humans to make mistakes in their first real battle. But the humans made no mistakes. They had trained for 30 years for this moment. Every officer knew exactly what to do. Every crew member performed their duty perfectly. Within 3 hours, 500 Krath ships were destroyed. The Krath commander began to feel something he had never felt before. Fear. How are they doing this? He screamed at his officers. Their technology is inferior. They should not be winning. He did not understand. The humans did not have superior technology. They had something more important. They had purpose. They had patience. They had 30 years of silent fury finally released. The battle lasted 2 days. When it was over, 1,800 Krath ships had been destroyed or captured. The rest fled back to Krath space. Human losses were heavy, but not crippling. They had won. Admiral Sujin sent one final message to the retreating Krath fleet. This is what happens when you hurt our friends. Remember it. On the Valari homeworld, people looked up at the sky and saw human ships arriving instead of Krath invaders. They wept with relief and confusion. They did not understand why the humans had saved them. They did not know about the secret fleet or the 30 years of preparation, but they would learn, and they would never forget. We helped Earth when nobody else wanted to. Only later did we understand how humans show their grimness part. 2. The quiet years. 30 years passed. Una watched from her office window as human and Valari workers moved through the streets of New Seoul. The city had risen from the ashes. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Clean streets carried vehicles and pedestrians. Children played in parks filled with green trees and colorful flowers. Earth had healed. The population had grown from a few 100,000 survivors to nearly 1 billion. It was still far from the 8 billion who had lived before the plague ships, but it was a miracle nonetheless. Humans had rebuilt their civilization with remarkable speed. Una had stayed on Earth all these years. She had become the permanent Valari ambassador to humanity. She had watched them grow and change. She had helped them in every way she could. But even after 3 decades, she still did not understand them. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she said. A young woman entered. She wore the simple gray uniform of the Human Engineering Corps. Her name was Minji, and she was one of the brightest minds Una had ever met. At only 28 years old, she had already mastered Valari technology that took most species centuries to understand. "Ambassador," Minji said with a small bow, "the new power station is complete. We have begun generating clean energy for the eastern districts." "Excellent work," Una replied. "You continue to impress me, Minji. Your understanding of our technology is remarkable." Minji nodded but did not smile. Her eyes remained calm and focused, just like every other human Una had met. "I have good teachers," Minji said. "The Valari have been generous with their knowledge." This was true. The Valari had shared everything with humanity: power generation, medical technology, agricultural techniques, ship design. They held nothing back. Many on the Valari homeworld questioned this decision. Why give so much to a species that could never repay them? But Una believed it was the right thing to do. "Tell me, Minji," Una said, sitting down at her desk. "What do your people do with all this knowledge?" Minji tilted her head slightly. "We learn it. We improve it. We teach it to others. But what is the purpose? What do you hope to achieve?" For a moment, something flickered in Minji's eyes. Something Una could not identify. Then it was gone, replaced by the usual calm expression. "We prepare," Minji said. "Prepare for what?" "The future." She gave another small bow and left the office. Una sat alone, thinking about that strange answer. Humans always spoke like this. They never gave complete explanations. They never revealed their full plans. They simply worked and prepared and waited. But for what? Later that day, Una visited the training grounds outside the city. Colonel Taiho, now General Taiho, oversaw military exercises there. Even though Earth was at peace, the humans trained constantly. Every citizen between 18 and 45 spent time in military service. They learned to fight, to survive, to work as one unit. Una found Taiho watching a group of young soldiers practice combat formations. His hair had turned gray over the years, but his eyes were the same: dark, unreadable, patient. "General," Una said, standing beside him, "your soldiers train hard." "They must," Taiho replied. "The universe is not kind. But Earth is safe now. The plague ships never returned. The Galactic Council ignores you. There are no threats." Taiho turned to look at her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke in his quiet, steady voice. "The Council ignored us when we were dying. They watched us suffer and did nothing. Do you think they will treat us better now that we are strong?" Una had no answer for this. She knew the Council's ways. She knew how they viewed humanity. Primitive, unimportant, not worth their attention. But she had hoped that with time, things would change. "The Valari have been good to us," Taiho continued. "We will never forget that. But the Valari are not the galaxy. And the galaxy taught us an important lesson. What lesson? Trust no one. Rely on yourself. And always be ready. He turned back to watch his soldiers. They moved with perfect precision, each one knowing exactly where to be and what to do. There was no wasted motion. No hesitation. They worked together like parts of a machine. Your people are efficient, Yuna observed. But they seem joyless. In 30 years, I have never seen a human celebration. No festivals. No holidays. No parties. Why? Taiho was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. We celebrate in our own way. We celebrate by surviving, by growing stronger, by making sure what happened to us never happens again. He paused. Joy is a luxury, Ambassador. We will have time for joy when our work is done. When will that be? When we are ready. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She walked through the streets of New Seoul, thinking about everything she had seen. The humans were strange creatures. They worked without rest. They learned without asking why. They trained without complaint. But they never seemed happy. She passed by a school and heard something unusual. Music, soft and sad, coming from an open window. She stopped to listen. Inside, a group of children sat in a circle. An old woman played a traditional instrument while the children sang. The song was in Korean, and Yuna did not understand all the words. But she understood the feeling. It was a song about loss, about remembering, about never forgetting those who were gone. The children's faces were serious. Even the youngest ones, who could not have known the old world, sang with deep emotion. They were learning their history. They were learning what had been taken from them. They were learning to remember. Yuna finally understood something. Human silence was not emptiness. It was weight. Every human carried the memories of billions of dead on their shoulders. Every child learned about the plague ships and the Council's betrayal before they learned to read. The tragedy was not in the past for them. It was always present, always remembered. But there was something else too. Something Yuna saw in the old woman's eyes as she played her instrument. Something she saw in the children's faces as they sang. It was not despair. It was determination. The humans were not broken. They were forging themselves into something new, something harder, something that would never be weak again. Yuna returned to her quarters with a troubled mind. She wrote a report to her homeworld, describing what she had observed. She warned that humanity was changing in ways she did not fully understand. She suggested that the Valari continue to watch closely. But even as she wrote, she missed the most important thing. She did not see the secret shipyards hidden beneath the mountains. She did not know about the factories building weapons in underground cities. She did not discover the military academies, training officers for a fleet that did not yet exist. The humans were preparing not for defense, for war. They did not know who their enemy would be or when the battle would come. But they knew, with absolute certainty, that one day they would need to fight. And when that day came, they would be ready. The Valari had given them knowledge and kindness. For that, the humans were truly grateful. But the galaxy had given them a different gift. Pain, betrayal, the knowledge that they were alone in an uncaring universe. And from that gift, they were building something terrible. Something the galaxy would one day learn to fear. We helped Earth when nobody else wanted to. Only later did we understand how humans show their grimness. Part 1. The abandoned world. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Ambassador Yuna stood at her platform and looked at the massive screen in front of her. The images showed a blue and green planet covered in dark clouds of smoke. Fires burned across entire continents. Cities that once stood tall were were now nothing but broken stones, and Ashdod Earth was dying. Yuna's 4 eyes blinked slowly as she watched the destruction. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow under the council lights. She was a Valari, a race known for their wisdom and kindness. Her people had been part of the Galactic Council for over 10,000 years. They had seen many worlds rise and fall, but she had never seen anything like this. The plague ships had come without warning. Nobody knew where they came from or who sent them. They appeared in Earth's orbit 3 months ago and released a terrible sickness into the air. The disease spread fast. It killed millions in the first week, billions in the first month. Now, only a small number of humans remained alive. "The vote is complete," said the council speaker, a tall creature with gray skin and 6 arms. "The motion to provide aid to Earth has been rejected. 15 votes against, 2 votes in favor." Yuna felt her heart sink. She had fought so hard for this. She had given speeches. She had shown evidence. She had begged. But it did not matter. "This is wrong," she said, her voice echoing in the great hall. "These people are dying. They need our help." The representative from the Krath Empire laughed. He was a massive creature with dark red scales and small, cruel eyes. "Why should we waste our resources on a primitive species?" he asked. "Humans have nothing to offer us. No advanced technology. No valuable minerals. Let them die. The galaxy will not notice." Other representatives nodded in agreement. Some looked away, unwilling to meet Yuna's gaze. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but they did not care enough to stop it. "The humans have done nothing to deserve this fate," Yuna said. "They are young. They were just beginning to explore the stars. We cannot abandon them." "We can," the Krath representative replied. "And we will. This council has voted. The matter is closed." Yuna stood there for a long moment. She looked around the room at all the different species. Some had been saved by the council in the past. Others had received help during difficult times. But now, when Earth needed them most, they turned their backs. She made her decision. "Then my people will help them alone," she said. The hall erupted in noise. Representatives shouted and argued. The council speaker demanded order. But Yuna did not listen. She walked out of the great hall with her head held high. 3 days later, the first Valari ships entered Earth's orbit. They carried food, medicine, clean water, and shelter materials. Yuna was on the lead ship. She wanted to see the humans herself. She wanted to understand them. The ship landed in what used to be a city called Seoul. Most of the buildings had fallen. The streets were covered in dust and debris. But among the ruins, Yuna saw something that surprised her. Humans were working. They were clearing rubble, treating the sick, and organizing supplies. Despite everything they had lost, they had not given up. A man approached the ship as Yuna stepped out. He was tall and thin, with tired eyes and a face covered in dust. He wore a torn military uniform. Behind him stood a small group of soldiers and civilians. "I am Colonel Taiho," he said. His voice was calm and steady. "Are you here to help or to watch us die?" Yuna was surprised by his directness. Most species would show more respect to visitors from space. But this human did not seem afraid or impressed. He simply wanted to know the truth. "We are here to help," Yuna said. "My name is Ambassador Yuna. My people, the Valari, have brought supplies. Food, medicine, whatever you need." Taiho studied her for a long moment. His dark eyes were impossible to read. Then he nodded once. "Thank you," he said. Nothing more. Yuna had expected more. She had expected tears of joy, celebrations, or at least some sign of relief. But the humans simply accepted the help and got to work. They unloaded the supplies with quick efficiency. They organized distribution points. They helped the sick and wounded. all without any celebration or extra words. Over the next few weeks, more Valari ships arrived. They brought engineers to help rebuild. They brought doctors to treat the sick. They brought teachers to help preserve human knowledge. Yuna worked closely with Taiho and his people, and she began to notice something strange. The humans never smiled. They worked hard. They were polite. They said, "Thank you." But there was no joy in their eyes, no hope in their voices. They moved through each day like machines, doing what needed to be done without any emotion. Yuna asked Taiho about it one evening. They were standing on a hill overlooking the ruined city. Fires still burned in the distance, but the smoke was clearing. The stars were visible for the first time in months. "Your people seem sad," Yuna said carefully. "I understand you have lost much, but you survived. You have a chance to rebuild. Why do you not celebrate?" Taiho looked at her with those unreadable eyes. For a moment, Yuna thought he would not answer. "We remember," he said simply. "Remember what?" "Everything." He did not explain further. He just stood there, watching the stars with an expression Yuna could not understand. She thought it was despair. She thought the humans had been broken by their tragedy. She thought they had lost the will to feel happiness. She was wrong. Years later, Yuna would understand what Taiho meant. She would learn that humans did not forget kindness. They remembered every helping hand, every act of mercy, every friend who stood by them in their darkest hour. But they also remembered every betrayal, every turn back, every cold voice that said, "Let them die." The humans were not sad. They were waiting, but Yuna did not know this yet. She only saw broken people trying to survive. She only saw refugees who needed help. She did not see the fire that burned deep inside them. She did not see the quiet determination that would one day shake the entire galaxy. The Valari continued their work. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped because it was right. And the humans accepted their help with solemn nods and few words. The galaxy had abandoned Earth, but the Valari had not, and the humans would never forget.